Hey everybody, how y'all doing? I'm not sure how this video is going to follow because I think I'm going to save some of the video from when I started on this motor until I found out I had a cam bearing issue with number 2 cam bearing bore on this. This is a 40 over 400 6-inch rod motor with an aftermarket scat crank, which is good for 6-inch and up long rods. And the other day I went through showing the Galley plug replacements and that, and I convert mine from the stamped steel to the screw-in pipe plug, and went to fit the cam. Cam wouldn't fit, but that wasn't on camera anyway. After getting back up to the machine shop with this block, found out the number 2 cam bearing bore was right on as you started entering. As you went back, it got smaller. Then it really went from being correct to 3,000s to 5,000 small, and you could see where the factory cutter had like skipped. So got that fixed. Cam bearings went in perfect. The cam is fitted in there, spins free. I got to pull the cam back out, unfortunately, and finish cleaning it up and then get it all lubed up, put in, get the timing chain on it and that. But right now, as you can see, depending on your nose, there's going to be a color change, because when that had to go in to get the number 2 cam bearing hole fixed, he had to hot tank it again, so, which was good. That's what I wanted done in the first place. But since he was doing that, I went and smoothed all these sharp edges, and I did a lot more block relief, and I added something to this motor I wasn't going to, and that's these provisions for these. So yes, so now when I put this crank in last night, I didn't think I had any in play, and I really didn't have any in play. It was barely 3,000s in play, and I'm like, huh? But I had a little issue when that was loose, trying to go back and forth. I had plenty of in play. Clamp it down, in play got tight. And I looked at that rear main cap, the mounting surfaces, everything. There was no burrs, no nothing, no oil, no. I just don't know. And I talked to one of you. I did a phone a friend, and he says, well, all I could do is sand that thrust, so I ended up doing that. Oops, that's not good. You can see the WD-40 in that flat piece of metal there. That was the only thing I had around here. It's a 1-inch piece of flat metal, and I did that, and see, I've got it right there. There's my screwdriver. It's at 0, and then I go. I've got 6,000s clearance right now. So yeah, I know I didn't show sanding that or anything, but this motor's not going to be a how-to. This one's going together. Now I got this crank in here, and this is a 400 stroke on this crank. The difference is this is an internally balanced, so I can put a 350 flywheel and a harmonic balancer on this, and not need the 400 stuff. So from the visual outside, unless you look at the casting number, it's just going to be a 350. Well, I got a set of pistons over here. I don't know if they're for the 565 or 57 rod or what. Now I can roll this up quick, and I got some two test rods over there, and I can see if those are. The guy couldn't remember if they were 6-inch rod, 57 rod, or what. Yeah, and there is no information on them anymore out there, so it's kind of why I wanted to get the crank in here, and kind of picking up at an odd spot on this. But like I said, this one is not an exact how-to build. I've got another one that we will go through and check the thrust. If the thrust needs to be sanded on the next one, I'll show you guys. This motor, I'm just trying to get it together. Have somebody interested in it, but I'm kind of starting to think twice about this particular one for what they want to do, because that's something else. And yeah, there's a lot of extra costs that already went into this one, so I want to build this one the way it was going to be, and probably end up building a totally different one with 100% brand new parts. This one, the only thing I used in it is the block and the pistons I've got. The pistons measure out fine, they're good, everything, but for what the person wants to do with the other one, I'd feel better having 100% brand new parts in it. So yeah, I'm trying to keep things. No, that's right. I don't know if it's the weather change or what, but I'm just kind of been a little spacey lately here. So but anyway, we've got the thrust set on this. I can roll it up, check that other piston, and then we can get the file fitting this stuff and fitting the pistons and the rods. I picked up a couple of things to help in assisting building motors around here. So, and one of them is right there. It's the piston rod holder, because I'm getting tired. I usually don't have the bench space, or my bench starts out clean and then it gets full of stuff, and then I'm trying to lay parts, and this way the pistons can be assembled in order, laying up there ready to go, rings and bearings, everything, and then it's just a grab and go. So I'm finding the older I get, I gotta kind of keep things a little more organized. And with you guys with the diabetes, you know what that's about, because I hate to admit it, I guess I'm getting older. So anyway, I'm gonna roll this up right, get those test rods so we can find out what those pistons are, because all I need is to crank up the number one top dead center, then I could drop that piston. And yeah, this is a 40 over bore, those are 30 over, but it's going to tell me if the piston's going to be down in the hole or out of the hole or right where it's supposed to be. Because if that's the case, I've got another eagle crank over there, and I got another good 400 block that if those pistons will work as a 5.7 rod, then I'll get that block up, get that honed, or bored and honed and cleaned, and we'll have another long rod. That one will be a 406 because it'll be 30 over. So yeah, I've got a lot going through my mind, and I'm trying to wrap up these builds because I kind of want to get away from the builds for a little bit, because we got a car or two that we're going to start working on. So anyway, forgive me, because you'll probably notice like the color change. I hope I didn't delete the videos, but there'll be, hopefully I can keep this all in order when I edit it. So alright, I'm going to get that stuff and get checking. Well, it's obvious they're not a 5.7 rod. I got a 5.7 rod on there. Let's see. So you guys right here. We'll lift that up. See, I got a couple of rods that I had to loosened up, but now it's, there it goes, loosened up so I can slide them through and see and test this stuff. So it's not a 5.7 rod. So we got the 400 rod, the 5.65 rod, which I'm kind of hoping it's not, but I got a feeling it is. See, just like that, slide it on, wipe, fit a bearing half so we can protect the crank, and we'll set it in there. Yep, unfortunately, there you go. Those are a 5.65 rod piston, which kind of sucks, because that means I need a set of short rods for that set of pistons. Because right there, So there's your difference between a 5.7 and a 5.65 rod. So I can mark those and know that. The reason I don't like the 5.65 rod is because the angle it puts on the cylinder walls. I don't like that. So, well, oh, here, just a second, I'll show you another way of seeing the difference here. So, so this turn back. That goes with that piston. And another way to see the difference is just do this. Get the bearing half out of there. Yep, what we're sticking out of the hole is what's showing here. So it's not a whole lot, but it makes a difference. So even there you can see the difference in the length. So alright, well, I now know those are for the short rod piston. So okay, well, we're going to go back to, now that I got that figured out, we're going to go back to this and start file fitting rings, getting those all ready to go. They're laying right there. So, and alright, let me get organized and get that set up. Nothing like having to slap the camera on to get it to work. Well, here's another good thing about having this set up now, because the particular pistons I'm using are Keith Black 129s. These were made in 2000, but they're like new. And we got a situation where we got rights and lefts, because you got your exhaust, intake, exhaust, intake, exhaust. And if you put this one here and vice versa, you're going to end up having your intakes or your exhaust probably hit. So this helps get this done. And for the first time in my life, I've ever used a set of 10 snips to fit a ring. I had to gap these, just a single one. I just had to gap the bottom one because if you see right there, there is a roll pin cast into this, and you got to add that roll pin width and plus to get a proper gap for that one. See, these rings, being this is a 6-inch rod piston, the wrist pin's up here behind the ring. So technically, if your spiral lock come up, you won't ever get a wrist pin into the cylinder wall, but you're going to have problems. Anyway, the way that works is, see, that holds that. It keeps this in place so that don't ever get in that opening and have the chance of bending down and going into the motor. So, yeah, and there's a lot to remember as you do this, because so I was going to put the oil control rings on. Well, I can't put the oil control rings on. I put half the spiral locks in already, but I got to get the rods on here before I can do anything. So now I'm getting set up to get the rods broke loose, and then I can hang the rods. I got to find my oil can squirter, because I got to put oil in the bushing, wrist pins, and that. and then we can continue going with this. But first, I guess, well, before that, I gotta come over here and now my ring squaring tool I have won't work on a 400. It's too large. And I have something else around here, but do you think I know where it's at right now? So, let's see. I'll just use this. And when I had to call Keith Black on these pistons because I didn't have any paperwork on them, and he told me how to gap that ring and that, and I says, anything else I should know to do with these pistons? He says, make sure the top ring's at least a minimum of 30 thousandths gap, because that's the other thing with these pistons too. Look at how high up that ring is. We've got what, about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch? Nah, not even 3/8. I don't even know, a 1/4 inch. And on this piston here, we got a good solid ways down. So yes, there's, when you move the ring that high, there's more heat and it will expand, which means it will contract the ends together, and that's what you don't want to happen, is the rings are pinching. So I got to file fit the top rings, get those set, wipe the crank down again, and oh yeah, I'm putting the standpipes in there. Some people believe in them, some don't. I like it, because the less you're beating that oil up trying to get it back to the crankcase, and like here I've opened that hole up so big in that one and this here, so the oil can go down the front and back without getting in the wind of the crank. That's the reasoning behind doing that. No, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, I guess I'll start file fitting rings and then putting rods on. It's been a while since I had to work this hard to put a motor together. It's just a lot of things to remember, a lot of different steps. So anyway, I'm going to go get the socket that I've walked into the office 4 times to get for the rod, so I can start getting that ready. So, alright. Well, let's see. I don't know what I last did. I haven't file fitted the rings yet. They're in the block. I've had a bunch of phone calls and everything since the last time I picked up the camera today. And got the first mock-up here. And yeah, he's got the pistons about 10 thousandths below in the deck, in the hole, 10 thousandths below the yeah. Like I said, first time I ever used, I think I did talk about that, 10 snips to fit this bottom ring here. So got that done. So when I can't mix this up, and like I said, you gotta can't put the rings on like I wanted to, because the wrist pin goes where the ring goes, and otherwise I'd have the ring, the oil control ring, and the second ring on there, and then been waiting for the rods. But nope. And then we got the floater going in. So, but I've kind of learned something this afternoon, and I didn't realize, and I now understand why this 400 stuff is kind of coming up for sale and nobody really wants it. I got somebody that's interested in coming up here and race next year. Everything he wanted to put together to come up here and race is not allowed. But there might be one class it will be allowed, and that's in the modifieds. reading the rules on the sanctioning body that I'm talking about. Everything else but the modifieds, they want a 604 crate, but if you build a claim motor like what I do, as long as it's a cast iron manufactured block, you can run it in the modifieds. Late models, street stocks are limited to 10.5 to 1 flat top or dished. I'm like, really? The hobby stocks are limited to a 9 to 1 compression. And it's all no 400 parts. No, so that means no 383s, no 406s, 409s, 421s. I'm like, wow. But then I've talked to a couple of others too, and you've said, well, we're 360 or smaller. I'm kind of getting tired of this cookie cutter racing stuff. I mean, that's how we got some of the parts we got, is because guys thought of ways to modify stuff and made things better. So I guess I'm kind of understanding that all this small, and I know, and I've been notified by somebody that here pretty soon a manufacturer is going to dump all their aftermarket crankshafts because the traditional small block as we know it, they're not selling. It's the LS stuff, for everybody's just buying crates, which is, I don't know, kind of scary. There's I don't know. So I guess what I'm doing is a dying tradition, but it's fun for me, and I guess what I'm building can go have fun at the drag strip or fun on the street or something. I guess otherwise I guess I have to put a modified together, run it in there. So I'm waiting for a call back from the director of this sanctioning body and see if that was a line left out in the rules, because I've come across that. Oh no, that should have been in there. Well, it's not in your rules, but I guess if it's modified, I mean, you could run a way of reading. You could run a big block, anything in the modifieds, but everything else is limited. So, yeah. And everybody and their dogs got LSs, but that's okay, I guess. I got a few LSs, and price, just like buying when the first calculator come out. Remember how expensive those were? Now you buy them for $1.99 or less. The LS parts are starting to get down to where they're more. What kills me on building those LS motors is the gasket kits. The prices for those, that's just crazy. But yeah, so I guess, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, this video is not a how-to by any means, and I'm probably going to have this first, and then what I did start with this, you'll see, but yeah, just lots of things, just, I don't know. But anyway, it's just, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. A lot of stuff is going away, and it's kind of a shame. It's kind of a shame. So anyway, everybody, there should be more after this. So got somebody interested in this motor, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. So I guess if anything, we'll just start over with another set, and that's what's just when you think you got it figured out, they come up with more rules to screw everything up. So alright, everybody, y'all take care, have a good one. Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Yep, we're finally getting on this. And sometimes you gotta recheck. Before I started videoing here, I had to refresh my memory on what was what, and this motor wasn't what I thought it was, I got stuff turned around, so, but we're going to build it anyway. Yep. So I'm going to bring up some points here for you guys. If you're to this point in your motor build, you should have these things done. On my old school Chevys, I always convert these to threaded plugs. And what you got to be careful there, and I'll show you, is this one and this one, you could run in there really deep and you're not going to hurt anything. It's this one on the front you can't run in deep, and I'm going to put these in with the cam bearing out so I can make sure, because that plug's not back, the passage is not back there very far. Now on the back of the motor, you don't want to run them in very deep either, otherwise you can block the oil passages off from the back side of the motor. But right here, this just deadheads up here, so you could take it within a 1/4 inch of the lifter if you really wanted, but there's no reason to. But that's just on those. And as you can see, I've done some grinding here to get where the oil can return to the motor, both sides. And then I'm going to be putting a double roller on here. I clearance this area, and I want to make sure the oil can get back to the bottom end. Sometimes I put the standpipes in, sometimes I don't. This one I'm not doing. But look at that, we'll open up the oil, took all the extra casting and flashing out of there. And now look at the hole that you got to get the oil to go back down the block. And when you look down through there, you can see the engine stand down there. See that? Just barely. You want to take the plug out from there. And let's see. Roll over. Whoa. We'll do that one again. This is a different engine stand. And that's that plug there that you can see the light through. I tapped that out. I hope I remembered to do that. Yes, I did. And we'll put the plug in. And since I got the plug out of here and I own an inspection cam, I can go make sure I can see past it. So before we start putting anything together, we're going to put this plug in and the 3 up here, just to make sure that we do not block that oil passage right there. You block that oil passage, you got big problems. So I'll get set up, and this one and this one I'm not worried about. Like I said, it's just the middle one, and we'll be ready to rock and roll here. So okay, Galley plugs I'm using are from Goodson, and there's a number on them. They're a little deeper. Some that come with your soft plug kits are a little shorter, and that sometimes is what I got to do. But I always put them in with a little red Loctite on them, just to make sure they stay. Like I said, the outer ones, they just deadhead, so got a feeling I'm going to have a try this one dry. Let's see. Just get snug. And I'm good. So, and I can show you what I'm talking about here because this block come out perfect. I didn't realize I cut that far in on the side ones, but this one's right here is where it's supposed to be. So, yeah, I thought I had kept everything together with this motor, and well, I did, but then I got motor switched around. So this is actually the 40 over, which is going to make it a 409. So okay, that was nice and tight, and I have an open hole there, no problems. So now I'll do the one right there. Get another plug. I have to order more of these. Actually, soft kits, the soft plug kits I get. Okay. And this plug here I have put in without Loctite or thread sealer or whatever. Basically what this does is block the passages off, so you can it'll send the oil through the filter. And okay. Thought I had everything out here. I already grabbed the camera. And I got to figure out something with this block too. I want to run a mini starter on it, but it doesn't have the third bolt hole over there, so. And if you got a camera for your phone or whatever, that's what I do, so. Okay. See the shine right there? That's the bottom of the plug. So, that's perfect. And look at how nice and clean it is in there. So, and then going this way. Oh, you really can't, but because it kind of kicks at an angle there. But oh yeah, it's below the, going that way you can see it's below the point. So happy with where that one ended up. That's a good, let's see, there you go. That's the bottom of the plug right there. So the passageway is clear, and that is sealed up. Otherwise, you forget that. That's a real pain. I haven't forgot that. I've had the stamped steel galley plugs come out before. So okay, so while we're here, and I don't forget it, is I'm gonna woof. I got a handle around here, but that'd be too easy. But let's see. We're gonna put this one in now too. You forget any of these right now, you got a major problem. Especially when you put the head on, you look under, seen that? Look under the head and see there's an open hole there yet, and you're going, uh-oh. So see, that's a longer plug, and it didn't go in. You gotta make sure it's below if you've had the block deck. Okay, we're below deck. Not by much, but it's below. So now, well, we'll do this one while we're here too. Because if I put a mechanical cam in this, it's going to get what they call oil restrictors here and there. So, and by putting these in, if you paint them now, or whatever, or it gives the stuff time to dry up and seal up and keep you from having problems. So, like I said, don't go crazy with back here. See, I could have used a lot shorter plug, but there. Yeah, I could have used one out of the soft plug kit, but there, this stuff is now. Okay. We are now ready to put this upside down again and get out the cam bearing tools. I mean, this has all been washed, it's been prepped, this is ready to go at this point. So, I mean, everything's been cleaned, wiped down, blowed down, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plugs that you should put in before you even start assembling anything on your motor. So I guess we'll get her upside down. I'll get the cam bearing tool, and we're going to kind of talk about a little bit of tool selection here too. So, alright, here you go. Here's my cam bearing driver setup that I use, and some of the other stuff I do have necessarily don't have to have it to do your own home engine builds, like the cam bearing tools. If you're not comfortable with putting the cam bearings in, you let the shopman do it. You want a good quality ring expander, one that's not going to hurt nothing. The wrench to go in the hammer, and you got the style ring compressors, or the old style ring compressors. And with this build, I'm going to have to go to an old style ring compressor because this is for 30 over and I don't have the 40 over, which I don't have a lot of 40 over pistons for 400, so kind of doesn't justify the cost of having one. And then I got a rod splitter here to take the rods apart, and I've also got the rod clamp over there. I gotta move stuff. And then I've got these for lining the rods past the crank so you don't nick your crankshaft. And I've got all sorts of, I've used hammers, wooden dowels. I seen this and I thought I'd give this a try. It's a piston hammer. And then now I've got this for putting in the soft plugs. It sets them all at the same height. So yeah, it takes a little bit of tools to do this. And would I say you need all this stuff? No, you don't need all this stuff. About the only thing, this here with the rod splitter, you could do that in a vise or something. You just have to be a little more careful, and because what it does, and then you've got your new parts. And this, in my personal preference, I like having the bushings and the wrist pins just touched, because this is being set up for floaters. Ah, okay. See, I don't even remember what I got for parts for this, but these here don't require this, because these are the bolts. These are the clearance rods to miss the camshaft with, so they've got the shorter bolt in there instead of using the studs. So okay, which means I got to find a different socket to take this apart, which once you take these bolts apart, then you put that over that pull and that'll pop this apart for you, because on these there's no place to hammer like a stock one, so you need to carefully separate this so you don't destroy it. So we got that. And what I do is, those can go up there. When your cam bearings, you get your cam bearings, this little tab right there is really important, because that tells you which bearing goes where. I don't know why GM just didn't make them all the same and made it simple, but GM for some reason does that. So let's see which way they got them in the box once. Sometimes they have them in there correctly. Nope, this should be a number 5, which is an SH288. Number 5, yep. So, and I like clocking mine. Okay, say this is a clock. That's 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. When the block's upright. No, when the block's upside down. Sorry, I'm going to get when the block's upside down, that's at the 6 o'clock position, and I want to put this in at the 7 o'clock. I do not line my cam bearings up with the hole going through the, so you just look down through, oh yeah, it's lined up. No. So the front and rear go in at 7 o'clock, and 2, 3, and 4 go in at the 4 o'clock when the block is upside down, like it is right now. So that's how that goes. So, and I'm going to mark this one number 5. And another reason you double check your numbers is to make sure that they're in there, got boxed correctly. And 287 is number 4. Most of the time they're pretty good. And number 3. And number 2 should be the 288. Yep. Number 2. And then number 1 is the one with the 2 holes. And you're good to go. So, alright. The numbers are there, they're correct. I have had a bearing set where I opened them up and they were not, one of the bearings was mispackaged, so I guess we'll get lined up and get these cam bearings in. And I'm also going to explain to you the rear cam bearing goes further into the block than the rest of them. And if you drive it in to where it's flush with the inside of the block, it's not far enough back, as one of you guys just learned the hard way, because you ended up having to take your motor apart because you had no oil pressure. It was because the bearing didn't seal up the oil passage around there, so it couldn't develop enough oil pressure to do anything. So I guess we'll get set up and going on installing cam bearings. Okay, see how I lined that hole up with a slot here? Since that's broken the fourths, I can take this, go back there, hold it at the 12 o'clock position, and I said I want the front and rear one that's 7. There's 9, and that will roughly be 7. So I don't have a good way to let's see, I don't have a good way of showing you this, but I'll drive that in and show you. With my cam bearing driver, when the cam bearing driver itself is flush, it should be pretty close. So give me a second here. And let's see, put it on. I see the back of the hole. Oops. And let's see. Yep, we got her flush. This is what. See what you guys are seeing. There you go. Yeah, just in there. And where is it? There it is. No? Down there. You can see that. So and we'll do that again, and then when I put the front bearing in, I drive that one from the rear out, so you keep it square so you know it'll fit your camshafts. But look at that. See, that's how far back in your rear cam bearing goes. Now the other ones are almost flush, if not flush. It just depends on how the block was machined in that. So alright, and that's how I do that from the rear coming forward. Drive that bearing out and get it in there as square as you can. And when you turn it that way, so I'll finish that and we'll check it. Okay, well, just a second here. Put that on silent for a second. As you can see, I'm a little bit red-faced, and I wasn't going to say anything about this, but everything we did to the motor, well, all the galley plugs are back out, and you notice there is no cam bearings. Yeah, it's the very first out of all the motors I've done over the years, all the hundreds of cam bearings I've drove in, this block finally got me. I've got a set of cam bearings missing the number 2 cam bearing. Well, I got one set of cam bearings missing the number 2 cam bearing, and the other set of cam bearings are destroyed. took me a little while. I was really fit to be tied, because when this all is said and done, it's going to have cost me almost 200 bucks more on this motor. Don't know, I shoved the cam in from the front and went through the first bearing just fine, shoved it in from the rear and went all the way up to the number 2. It just, number 2 got extremely tight. I double checked the bearing number to make sure I was putting the right one in the bore. 2 different brands of cam bearings, same failure. Well, it's going to the machine shop to be fixed. After talking to him, he thinks the bore on number 2 is small for some reason, and that, so, well, since he's going to have to hot tank it, I did a few more things to this that I hadn't done before that I have done now. So this build of this motor is going to start all over. Jesus. It's starting all over. I don't know, I might end up having the cam bore just, if he can fix the four of the bearings fit the cam fine. And before you say it, I flipped the cam in for in, so I got all the way up to the number 2 bearing, that number 2 bearing. Anyway, I was sitting here looking and trying, after I calmed down, and I could see where it looks like when the factory bored that, there's probably about a 32nd of an inch that looks like the cutter stopped and then jumped over. Because when I put the cam from the back in, it got a little ways into the bearing, but when I went to come from the front going back, I couldn't even get it into the bearing. So that kind of tells me there's a, so how that ever made it out of the factory like that, I don't have a clue. So then I ran a piece of metal in my finger. I just, so yeah, I didn't document it, but yeah, you know, if everything went perfect in the world, you'd worry. So I guess that is where it's at. It looks like the end of the week, unless he finds out I'm going to have the whole cam tunnel honed the end of the week, and we'll be back on that. And the other motor I can't do anything with because we got to have the balance rechecked on that and possibly deck the blocks. So, and I just thought the videos were going to get, well, it gives me something else to work on. So I just, man, that motor, that's got to go and be balanced for the first time. So yeah, I'm just, and I found a lot of flashing in this block after I looked a little closer. So, you know, things happen for a reason, and maybe that was the reason, because some of the flashing that I found just popped right off how it hadn't popped off, and I guess you don't want that floating around in your oil. So it is what it is. You'd like everything to go perfect all the time, but when I drove 4 out of 5 cam bearings in, and they all worked just fine, and I guess that's why, guys, when you do this stuff, before you put your crank and your rods and everything in, make sure you can slide that camshaft in and rotate it, because the 377, that spun free. Buddy's 383, his wife's motor, all those, the cam spun free. Then I go to work on one of mine to finish it, and it bites me. So yeah, he's just it was the first time for everything. Now, I have screwed up cam bearings. I mean, when you're sliding them in, you dropped and you gouged them. I've had the replacement for that, but this is the first time I've ever had one where it's made the bearing smaller than the cam, and which I'll feel better. I really wanted this to have a full hot tank. Well, he says if he's going to put the cam bearings in, it's got to be hot tanked, and I said that's fine. I said I just want to know that I can slide a camshaft in and it's going to be just right, and I want to tell him how I want the cam bearings installed. And that, so, or if he just bore, I don't know. It's woosah. Anyway, I guess, yeah, I was hoping to have the crank installed by now. Thank God I hadn't drove the cam plugs, soft plugs in. So it is what it is. Guess when it gets back, we'll start over and reassemble. So, alright everybody, hopefully your shop project's going better than this. Like I said, finding all those little things that I needed to do, maybe that was the sign, because everything happens for a reason. So, everybody, see you later.